What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. And today is going to be kind of a different video. We are going to take a look over here at the cryptocurrency market. We'll take a look at these price charts over here for the total altcoin market cap. We'll peek over there at the Ripple XRP price chart, Bitcoin. We've got a green day, positive day in crypto. We can see we're still holding that price level we've been looking at for the last couple of weeks for this total altcoin market cap, looking for a bounce to come out of here. Everything's still looking optimistic in here. Kind of like what we expected. It would be a little bit of a grueling pull out of here, right? A V bottom that would be pretty trying. But, 2 weeks ago with everything happening so dramatic, we were looking to see everything just stabilize. And certainly enough, we have stabilized in here. But the big question everybody has, of course, is whether or not, is this bull run over? Are we going to be crashing into the ground? Are we going to be going up higher? I've expressed my opinions that, Bitcoin hasn't reached out to a full 4.236 extension, which would be about $72,000 to $73,000. The altcoin market cap hasn't reached out to a full 4.236 extension, which is there between 1.8 and 2.0 trillion dollars. And so, right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm still banking on us setting at least one more high. In addition, Bitcoin's 2013 bull run style took us up to about $80,000 to $85,000, along with the total altcoin market cap performing its infamous double tap on top of the previous all-time high with a bull flag breakout back test, looking for a V bottom to come out of here. All of these things indicate to me that we set another new high. However, at that point, once that new high gets set, or as we get really deep into these retracements, we're going to start seeing something different come out of the blockchain backer. A little bit more worry, a little bit more concern, and expressing that, hey, there's the potential that a bear market is around the corner. I want to talk about that. I don't want to scare you, but I do want to talk about it. I want to kind of show a few things that are going on in the world right now that lead me to believe that it's possible that a bigger stock market fall could be coming sometime soon, in which we know on this channel we have completely debunked all the myths and marketing ploys out there to say that cryptocurrency is not tied to the stock market. It absolutely is. It is not a non-correlated asset class. It is a very correlated asset class to the equities market. And so I want to take a look at the broader perspective of the world and show the things why I think there's still another high that's going to be set in crypto, and why I think the warning signs are there that the bear market could begin afterwards, and that there's even the potential that, hey, we could just be doing a retracement up into the retracement levels and a bear market begins. Now, I personally favor the version where we do go higher and the altcoin market gets up to 1.8 to 2.0 trillion dollars, but we have to be aware of the retracements and that these are very critical. And when we've seen bubble pops and we've seen initial crashes, this retracement area told a story of if a bear market was beginning or not. So until we get through there, we don't know the answer. I favor us getting through it and going up, but the story really does get told as we get into the retracements. But now it's time to start talking about, setting this new high, right? Is there any conditions in the world that are happening that are saying, hey, there's going to be some FOMO that happens, where there's this sudden surge where Bitcoin does do what we've seen previously, right? As you guys know on this channel, I've always favored this 2013 setup. Once we got through the all-time high, we saw no alt season in here. It just confirmed to me, what? I've got to pick a strategy I'm going with. I'm going with this one that, what? Everything in here has mirrored what happened in 2013 in regards to corrective structures that took place during our whole bear market, during this structure, from distances, everything saying, look, that top's coming in there somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. At this time, Bitcoin has hit a high of $65,000, and we've now seen a 50% pullback. Well, guess what happened in 2013? We also had a 50% pull down that happened in there before Bitcoin went on to set its final top and then crash, and then the gig was up. So that's asking for something pretty wild, right? That's saying that, hey, we're going to come all the way up here, get up there, and then come all the way back down in here again, and then it's over, right? So if we're looking for some fundamental reasoning on why, right? Why would there be this sudden pop to the upside? And then why would there be a bear market that would begin right afterwards? Are there any fundamental conditions out there in the world that would lead to something like that happening? And well, one of the charts we've always talked about on this channel has been the dollar, the DXY, or the US dollar currency index. If you've noticed over the last several months in mainstream media, there's been a very hard push on the inflation inflation narrative. However, in 2020, there was no discussion of inflation on mainstream media. Yet, the entire fall that we saw happen in the dollar took place in 2020. It actually found this local bottom right here at the very beginning of January and has since been able to hold this bottom since then. Yet all of mainstream media has pushed the inflation narrative onto the general public during this time, never warning them at all of it happening while the dollar was falling. Now, the thing is, we were talking about the dollar falling all throughout here, expecting to see that the dollar would fall because we were seeing what we typically see, in that we had 5 waves to the upside. We saw our A wave down, B wave back up. At the time, we were at a standard retracement level. We were hanging out in these retracements right in here. Then C19 happened, causing massive volatility in here, but yet the dollar still continued to do what we expected it to, looking for an ABC correction to show up out of the dollar. This isn't something new. This isn't something we've just hopped on the train of. This is something we were talking about, this exact thing, ABC crashing of the dollar before C19, before all the Fed printing all the money, all the craziness, all that wild stuff. The vision for me for this YouTube channel and for cryptocurrencies and everything was that there is going to be this big fall in the dollar and we're going to see inflation come, and that cryptocurrencies will massively benefit from this as people become fearful of the US dollar. But what was so wild during this time period is that there was no fear of the dollar during 2020. It was absolutely incredible. People were actually scared of a deflationary Great Depression. They were more worried that asset prices were going to lose a tremendous amount of value and that they needed to hold on to their dollars, disregarding the fact that the government was printing trillions and trillions of dollars in 2020. I don't know where I can get my number straight, but it's somewhere between $6 and $9 trillion printed in 2020, with 22% of historic money supply ever printed, all happening in 1 year. Yet, mainstream media did not start pushing this on the general public until 2021. And so what has happened in 2021? We now have this huge worrying concern in Google searching of inflation with a breakout, multi-year breakout. We're seeing the highest numbers we've seen since back in 2004, with Google projecting the volume of searching that's occurring to go on and set new record highs for the most searching of inflation out there. So what we're seeing is the mainstream media starting to massively groom the general public about inflation. Be worried of inflation, be worried of prices going up. All the while, the dollar is sitting down here at multi-year support, which I suspect it's going to break. We've now had a falling dollar that actually started back here in January of 2017, started its ABC correction, which I believe is going to break to the downside and take out this low. Mainstream media has groomed the public about inflation for the last several months. Then the big grand finale happens. The dollar actually breaks support. All the people who have been sitting here hearing the stories, worrying about it, thinking about it, saying, yeah, it could happen, I guess it's crazy. Then bam, dollar hits multi-year lows, loses most purchasing power in a decade. But as we can see, it's actually held itself through 2021. But we've begun the fear campaign of inflation for the last several months. And what will happen when that breaks? Now, you have to assume either that thing is going to hold right now, right? So when this thing held back in here, when was this? This was January of 2018. Guess when that was? That was the end of the 2017 cryptocurrency bull run, when the dollar found its support right there. So is the dollar going to find support here now? Is that why we're seeing this big pullback over there in crypto? Are we going to see a massive breakthrough to the downside for the DXY, or the US dollar currency index? My bets are in that the dollar is going to break lower, but I also can see what the media is doing to the general public, and it's grooming them in the direction of panic, into decision-making time. We've groomed you, we've groomed you, we've groomed you, boom, panic now. And what happens when the media grooms people and then leads them to certain decisions all at the same time? They wrong foot them, right? Every time. Financial media will also scare you out of buying bottoms. That's exactly what happened on CNBC. The narrative for cryptocurrency and Bitcoin was incredibly bearish and skeptical. But what we have here is we have a dollar that has been falling. A dollar is now almost at support levels. It's held the support level for the entire year of 2021. However, I do suspect that it is going to break down. And what's going to happen when it does? There's been months and months of grooming of inflation and worry of the dollar. My suspicion is we'll see a flock to assets. However, I do believe that this is actually an ABC correction and that the dollar will recover and the dollar will get stronger. Why? Because I think we're on the cusp of an absolute market meltdown. And this is the luring in of the final retail investors to buy the top of the stock market. Never in history have we had people more worried about getting out of their dollars. We haven't seen this. At the exact same time, when we look at the historical data of search volumes for the term Great Depression, we are at the lowest we've ever seen. People are the least worried of the market crashing and more worried about inflation, and that if they don't dump their dollars, that stock market's going to keep rising. Those assets are going to keep rising without them, and that a Great Depression is not something to be worrying about right now. We can see throughout all years there is an ebb and flow, and there is just a nice little trend of when people are worried about Great Depression. This is every single year. There is just a perfect little rise and fall every single year, yet this year we don't have it. Last year, very worried of Great Depression. This year, none. And when we overlay the inflation search volume and the Great Depression search volume, we can see a breakdown in Great Depression of people being fearful of the market breaking down, and a breakout in inflation of people being fearful that their dollars are going to go down. We have a complete break in retail investor psychology right now, and an absolute surge in learning how to day trade. 14 years of data history right here. Suddenly, everybody wants to be a day trader. Why does that matter? Because before the crash of 1929 and when the Great Depression actually did occur, this is precisely what happened. Massive amounts of retail investors wanted to partake in the stock market because everybody could win. Now, I know what a lot of the responses will be. A lot of people will say C19 had a lot to do with this. People are bored, people are doing this, people are doing that. It doesn't matter. All of these things culminated together give you a very clear picture that retail investors feel they can jump into the market and everybody wins. There's lots of worry about inflation, and there's not much worry about a big giant crash in the stock market. And these things aren't just small things. We're talking big, monstrous decade breakouts and people wanting to learn how to day trade, breakouts and worry about inflation, a breakdown in concern of a Great Depression, all occurring at the exact same time. And these are the things that happen when you see all retail investors get pushed into one corner. And the corner they're all being pushed to right now is buy everything. And when you take the Dow Jones off of log scale and you look at it like that, buy everything as we're printing a big giant bubble. So up until this point, you're probably thinking, blockchain backer, what are you doing, man? You're trying to scare me, man. Especially while the market's in this big pullback scaring me over here. And that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to show is that I try to think 2 steps ahead. I try to think of what's going to happen here, right? I look at the narratives of where people are getting groomed to. Where is the retail trader herd being lured to? Because typically, wherever the herd is, wherever the mainstream media is leading people to, is the wrong place to end up going. But I wanted to take a minute to show the big picture of what I see happening in this market right now, or happening in the world right now. And it's that the US dollar is sitting on support right now. What's going to happen if the dollar breaks support? Meanwhile, Bitcoin's previous fractal and the Fibonacci extension gives us one more push to the upside, which also leads into complete chaos, euphoria, and wildness in the altcoin market. But what that also shows is that if that is correct, right? So this isn't me predicting this isn't me anything, just saying if we follow it, like we have followed it so far, it tells you what happens next, right? You have to say it's done everything identically. What's the next step after it goes to that? The next step is bear market. That's what it just says it's going to do. It's not me predicting and saying, I predict there's going to be a bear market next. That's just saying if this thing continues to follow exactly what it followed all throughout all of these years, and it reaches up and does this, the next thing that happened in the fractal was bear market. So that would mean bear market next. And since the cryptocurrency market follows the stock market, and since we have all these other conditions that are also indicating that retail investors are all pushed into one particular direction, which is buy everything, be scared of dollars, that is usually what happens before big corrections or crashes happen as well. And that's all I'm trying to point to in this video. But here's the deal. Bull markets can be grueling to the upside, and they can have ups and downs and ups and downs, but in the end, trending to the upside. During the bear market, we would see 70% crashes happen multiple times as we were bottoming out. And I remember saying on my YouTube channel, there will be multiple times where people will get shaken out in the bull market. People think that just because you're in a bull market, hey, it's easy, everybody wins. But the reality is people absolutely get shooken out of bull markets as well. This is a great example of that. Just because you're in a bull market and just because you're still up, literally Bitcoin's up 1,000% or more since the bottom, people are still utterly terrified. So shakeouts do come, and not all people win in bull markets. But the thing that always marks, or has always marked, when the end does come is complete insanity, chaos, euphoria, surging parabolic prices. That's what happens only at the very end. So if we're heading to that moment, we're heading to the most exciting moment, and the moment we've all been waiting for in the cryptocurrency market is that moment where everything goes insane. And that's the thing that would be ahead of us, assuming all of this is accurate and that it does repeat. That the next phase in front of us is the moment we've all been waiting for. We've gone through the grueling grind up. We've gone through the attempted shakeouts. We've gone through all this and that. And then finally reaching the moment where it goes insane. That's how bull markets are marked at their end, with complete euphoria madness. Did we see that recently? We did see that in some aspects of the market. We saw that in Doge and we saw that in some meme coins. But did we see that everywhere? I don't think so. I posted an update to bcbacker.com 2 days ago on May 31st, and we were talking about how a lot of stuff had hit its all-time high, like Litecoin and Monero and 0x, and took a big step back from their all-time highs. Is that the mark of the top? I don't know. I don't think so. No guarantee, but it seems like that's that big knockback before the big blast, right? And so I'm talking about staying 2 steps ahead here. I'm not here to scare you, because the next phase, if all of this is true, right? If the bear market is around the corner, well, what happens before the bear market? The complete euphoria, craziness, madness throughout the whole market happens next. So it's really actually the next phase is super extreme excitement, fun, hooray, this is awesome, we all make a ton of money, and then things go south. But I have to always keep in the back of my mind that, hey, that turning south time period, don't forget about that thing when things get really exciting. I have to say, I know what's coming next, right? This doesn't last forever. This is really exciting. I'm super happy. I'm so glad I held so long. I can't believe I made it. Wiping my tears off, But then at the end, not getting too caught up in that moment and saying to myself, what comes afterwards? And that's the market cycle has to reset itself. And you know what? Like I say, I will be more than happy being wrong. I will be more than happy with this model being wrong, and that everything just keeps on going. But I've always had to kind of prepare myself around something and having a vision. And when we were in the bear market, for me to remain confident, for me to remain tunnel visioned and focused on where we were going, all of it was to get up here into these moments right in here, to have that conviction that things were going to get up there. This is where it was. And we're now right before the big moment. And I'm excited. It's definitely a fingernail biting moment, right? But I'm excited. And I think it's important to, and people always ask, are you from the future? Legend. And the thing is, it's not just making random predictions and them coming true. It's just, these are the types of things that I do. I look around at everything that I can to try to get a really good understanding of what's happening, not based off what the media narrative is trying to tell me. I think the media narrative is important, but to try to find other data to link it all together. I always say in markets, to be successful, you have to have 4 qualities, and they have to all be equally the same. You have to be 25% smart. You have to be 25% stupid. You have to be 25% conspiracy theorist and 25% grounded in reality. And if any of those little things are off by any percentage points, it screws everything up. But that's the reality of all of it, is that, you have to kind of say what is being told to you that is truthful from the media, what is not being told truthful, or what is the agenda of the media narrative that's being told to you, what does the underlying data tell you of what retail investors are actually doing, what's really happening in markets, what's the volume, which trends are people going in, what is the narrative being spun, being told to you, and having to figure all of this stuff out and then try to draw a conclusion from it. And a lot of times that can be very difficult. But just sticking, and that's why I just love charts the most, because if I can't make any sense out of everything that's going on in the world, I say, let me just go back to the chart. And when I put the Bitcoin chart in an inverse structure, and you guys know that I love the crashing structure and being able to identify a crashing structure, that if we take Bitcoin's bull market and inverse it to be a bear market, we would see that there would still be one more move down before the end of that would come in. And since we're in an inverse structure, that would mean one more move up in Bitcoin, which means one more big grand finale hurrah for the altcoin market. And yesterday I had posted this over here on my Twitter, and I'll take these little things off right here. But when we look at what the previous alt season looked like and how when the Bitcoin dominance was really falling down heavily, I went ahead and posted this over here to put it at the point in time of when the altcoin market really started to take over and when the Bitcoin dominance broke down right in here, just like that. We can put it right here and see, wait a minute, is all of this just a trick for one more hurrah over there in the altcoin market, which is a massive surge in the altcoin market, right? That's where things get really, really crazy. And we can see an equal measure distance of right when the breakdown actually occurred, the official mark of the alt season began, how there was a big pause that took place exactly right here. And that these structures of how this is all happening is incredibly similar to exactly how it happened back then. And that's still more and more things keep pointing to. There's still this big grand finale moment. But there you go. The Fibonacci extensions show it taking it out one more time. The fractals show it taking it up one more time. The US dollar is teetering on top of its support level. And all of these things tell me that we've got this one more big grand finale to happen over here in the market. We'll see if it happens, but that's what I'm seeing. But I thought it was important to also show all these other things that are happening in the market from a bigger, broader perspective of the market on how many people are now trying to learn how to day trade, how many people are scared of inflation, and how many people are not worried about a Great Depression. And that if this does end up being accurate right in here, that we'd be coming up to the end of a market cycle in which it was not 4 years between cycles, but that this was actually its own 6-year cycle, and it's the end of a 6-year cycle. Fingers crossed it's not true. I'd love for Bitcoin to go to 200 grand, 300 grand, bring it on, baby. But I have to follow something that seems reasonable to me, and this seems the most reasonable to me, that the excitement is around the corner, but that also marks the end of the market cycle. But all right, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I told you this video would be different. I just wanted to paint a really big picture of everything rather than looking at what's happening with the price action today. Even though it's a green day, it's a great day out there in the market. I wanted to paint the bigger picture of what's going on in my mind. So when I come on here every day, I don't want people thinking that I'm just like, he's bullish for the sake of being bullish. I wanted to really show that, this is why. We're at the verge of the dollar collapsing. We've watched all this media grooming of people about inflation. The big grand finale, hip hip hurrah craziness comes at the point where the dollar goes lower. Also, the fractal indicates that would be the end of the market cycle if Bitcoin got up there between $70,000 and $80,000, and those time periods have always marked insane craziness in the altcoin market. I see all those things right ahead of us, and I wanted to just kind of show my bigger world view in there to understand why I come on here and am still consistently looking for more upside. Of course, if the dollar shot straight to the upside and gained a ton of value, well, that would throw everything off. But I sit there with the conviction that the dollar is still weak. But I don't think it'll be weak forever. And that's, a lot of people say, well, why would the dollar ever get strong again, right? Why would you sell anything for US dollars at that time? And it's because demand would return for dollars. If asset prices started falling, then the demand for dollars would rise, which would also mean like housing values would fall. What does that mean for a dollar? If you believe that the housing market is going to crash, that also means that you believe the dollar's value will gain strength. And I don't think a lot of people think about it in that way. If you think certain markets are going to crash, then you also believe that the dollar is going to get stronger. So I do believe at some point around the corner, the dollar's value will increase because asset prices will come down. And I know it can start get complicated. We start talking about all this different stuff, but in the short to medium term, I'm still bearish on the US dollar. But eventually, I'll have to become a bull on the dollar, not because I think that the dollar is being managed very well, but because, like a lot of people believe, I also believe that asset prices are very high. Housing market is very high. And well, if a house costs $300,000 right now, but in a couple of years it's only going to cost $150,000 for that house, that means that dollar has much stronger purchasing power, doesn't it? So that's how I like to think about it. All right, I'm just rambling at this point. I hope that you guys are doing well. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, I did add an update to bcbacker.com in the last couple of days over there on May 31st, going through what happened throughout May, the chaos and craziness of May. You pretty much had to be living under a rock to not see any of that happen. But we talk about it and discuss it. If you're unfamiliar with my website, which is bcbacker.com, this is my course where I've just deep dived into the previous Bitcoin bull runs and the different altcoin market cycles, tying them all together to show how those previous alt seasons have worked within Bitcoin cycles. Talk about mathematics and percentages, and I talk about my personal exit plans along with how to set up your own charts and indicators within TradingView. That's been highly requested. A lot of stuff to how to set up your own charts and what software am I using to do my trading, or not trading, but my charting on. You can check all that out over here on bcbacker.com. You can follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.